shoe is better to hoop in? The LeBron Witness 6 or the LeBron Witness 5? Today we're putting the two most recent models from LeBron's Witness shoe line head to head to see how they compare. But really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. So starting off with the box and the price, I mean the Witness 5s are going to come in a pretty basic black box with that LJ logo kind of in the middle there. Definitely nothing too special. The Witness 6 does get a little bit more flash, coming in an orangish yellow box. It's going to have a lion face on there since, LeBron's nickname is King James. The lion's king of the jungle, kind of an easy connection there. And then, as for pricing, the Witness 5 is going to retail for $100 even, which is half the price of the LeBron 19, his main shoe line. So, definitely not bad there. And the 6s are going to be right there with them at $100. So, these are going to be slightly on the higher end, just, being a budget-friendly option to a player's sub shoe line, but still pretty cheap whenever you're comparing them across the board. So looking at the appearance for these shoes and starting off with the colorways, today we have the LeBron Witness 6 Crimson Pulse versus the LeBron Witness 5 Game Royal. So checking out the Witness 5s first, I actually do like some of the other colorways better for this shoe. I just kind of went with the blue ones because it's almost a perfect match with the jersey. So, I thought that looked pretty nice. But as for like the shoe itself, it just isn't a ton going on. Probably less than this year's 6 model. There is a clear change in like the materials from like the front to the back of the shoe, but I'm going to get more into that here when I talk about that section in a second. I do like how they etched that lion face into the inside of the shoe, kind of back near the ankle, but I do kind of wish they put it somewhere like more noticeable though. And the LJ logo is going to show up on like the tongue for both of these shoes, but it is going to be safe to say this is more of a simple model just as far as the look. But now switching it over to the LeBron Witness 6, this is the newest addition to that Witness line, and there are some changes they made on the shoe that did stick out to me. So first is going to be that midsole that kind of runs up the shoe. It almost looks like a wing, and you're going to have that LJ crown logo kind of cut out. And they do have that same look to the inside of the shoe where you're going to get a Nike swoosh along with some Witness text in there. And the tongue for these has that like lion face kind of embossed into the design. I do think that's really cool. It is kind of tough to see on this all black colorway though. It's definitely more noticeable on some other color schemes out there, but that is another piece on the shoe that looked pretty clean. So neither of these shoes are going to be all that flashy, but I do think some better upgrades were made to the Witness 6 model. But now let's go ahead and see how both of these shoes hold up on the court. For the materials and the support, the LeBron Witness 5 has a pretty noticeable shift that takes place kind of in the middle of that shoe. The front portion is going to be made up of some mesh that will allow for some really nice ventilation, which is something to like. And with these being on the cheaper side, you are going to be able to tell that it's not the most quality materials, not something you'd see show up on a main line for sure. But, kind of moving towards the back, you can see that that region is more filled in. And that's where these get like a rigid heel counter, kind of around where that lion face shows up on the shoe, which is going to help keep your foot in place and provide for some nice stability. And the support honestly isn't bad. The upper isn't overly firm, but you're also going to have no outrigger or anything like that, no straps. But I haven't noticed any like major issues as far as the support, and that's definitely nice. But now switching it over to the LeBron 6, these are going to have like that same spot on the shoe where you're going to have, two different materials, like two different material setups, I guess, in the front and the back. You're going to have another lightweight mesh design in the front that's going to allow for your foot to breathe really well. And a little bit of a different pattern though. I actually do like it a little bit better for some reason, just from like an aesthetics point of view. Then on the back, you're going to have some external molded pieces that are going to be there to kind of help keep your foot within the shoe. I do think the support is actually a little bit better on these. You're going to have those wings that kind of come up to help with the lateral containment. And there's also going to be that black kind of wing up near the toe box. It's going to help a little bit too. And neither shoe really did struggle with support, but I do think the Witness 6 did do a little bit more to kind of help you where you needed it. And these also are going to have a padded collar around the heel that does make them feel a little bit more comfortable just to play in from my perspective. But unlike LeBron's actual shoe line, both of these shoes are going to range on the lighter side of the scale. The LeBron Witness 6 is only going to weigh 436 grams, or 434 grams actually, for a size 10.5, which is almost 200 grams lighter than the LeBron 19. And the Witness 5 is even lighter than that, all the way down at 406 grams. So, two pretty light shoes to play in. I definitely love that. So now getting into more of the materials and the performance side, and starting off with the cushioning, that is one of the highlights for LeBron's shoe line just in general. And both of these shoes, being on the cheaper side, they're not going to get quite as much packed in there. But the LeBron Witness 5 does have two Zoom Air units that kind of sit under the ball of your foot to give you some nice responsiveness. I do like how they make those units visible through the midsole. They do the same thing for the LeBron 19s and just a lot of the shoes within LeBron's line. And these are going to have resilient foam midsole that is pretty good. It's obviously not going to be the softest model to play in, but they weren't hurting my feet or anything along those lines. But you can just tell that, there just aren't as many layers involved with the cushioning here. and all that's going to be factored into the retail price. Of course, there's only going to be, so much that you can do. But now switching it over to the Witness 6, they did switch it up and use a max air cushioning setup that's going to run from the front all the way to the back of this shoe, which is there to kind of help dissipate the hard forces of impact whenever you're landing, as well as kind of give you, a bouncy yet responsive sensation. And from what I've felt, these do play a little bit softer than the Witness 5 model. Similar to those, you are going to be able to see those max units kind of through that midsole. And, for a subline, both of these models still held up pretty well for this category. I don't have any major complaints. So to finish off with traction, LeBron's mainline has kind of been missing the mark in this area for a while now, but I'd be willing to say that even though these are much cheaper, just like as far as the quality, the traction is right there contending, honestly probably winning. So the Lebron Witness 5 is going to get a diamond pattern for the design, and you can kind of see where those two units are also going to be at for the cushioning that we referenced earlier. But I mean, honestly, these are actually gripped the floor really well. Like, my one knock is that I did slip occasionally in this shoe. Like, sometimes the traction almost felt a little bit inconsistent, but it honestly might have just been like some spots on the floor, because in general these felt really good to play in. But now switching it over to the Lebron Witness 6, I was pumped that Nike decided to go with, a traditional herringbone setup, because that is one of the better performing traction patterns on the market, and it did hold true here. I mean, just like the Witness 5s, these are going to grip the floor pretty well. They probably are even a little bit stickier on this shoe, and I did have the same thing happen though, like with the occasional slipping in this model. But that's what's really got me just like scratching my head, just wondering if it was more of like a fluke, because otherwise they did play just fine. And both of these shoes are going to have some thicker grooves, which are going to make them viable outdoor options. I mean, the traction pattern should hold up for a while, and honestly the cushioning should be good enough to have you covered, like just as far as like your impact protection. But to finish off with sizing, I mean, both of these shoes are going to be average for the width. There is a little bit of extra room left over in the Lebron Witness 5 for the length, just for your toes, just compared to the Lebron Witness 6, but nothing I'd personally like go a half size down on, just something to keep in mind. So for the final ratings, and starting off with the appearance, for the most part, you are going to have two pretty simple models, but the Witness 6 is a little bit more eye-catching, just, where they place that lion face. You kind of got the wings on the side, so I'm going to lean that way to start. And then as for the cushioning, I mean, neither shoe is going to be at the LeBron 19 level, like, let's be clear about that. But the max air cushioning in the 6, I think it does play a little bit softer, so I am going to stick with the Witness 6 here. But now looking at the materials, I mean, both of these shoes have almost the exact same setup with the exact same types of materials, so I'm just going to keep that section as a tie. And then for the support, I do want to lean towards the Lebron Witness 6, just due to the wings kind of being built up from the midsole. So I guess actually I am going to go that way. I mean, it's really not much of a difference. Like, it's not a big separation as far as like the playing field. The 5s didn't really struggle, but the 6s, they just are set up to do a little bit better there. So I'm going to go with them for that section. But to finish off with traction, I mean, the 6s are going to be a little bit better here too. You have that herringbone pattern, which is nice. I think they do grip the floor a little bit harder and just a little bit more consistently if I had to choose, which, I guess I have to because it is my review. So for those reasons, I actually am going to go with the Lebron Witness 6 as the better model to hoop in. To be straight up, I mean, it really isn't much of a difference between these two shoes as far as like separation. Like, the cushioning is going to be slightly better. I mean, as far as like the support, it's going to be slightly better. It's going to be a feather better for the traction. So, I mean, I'm just not saying that the Lebron 5 is going to be a bad shoe to hoop in. I'd say it's just not quite as nice, especially when you consider they are going to be the same retail price at $100. But, for that price, I can see both of these shoes being a really solid option to play basketball in. I mean, neither shoe has a weakness that's going to concern me. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. If you want to buy the Lebron Witness 6, just click the link on screen, where we have links for both shoes down below or in our bio, so feel free to check those out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoeware. Peace.